Well, it has been a kind of a busy couple months. I know for me personally, it's been a busy time of the year. Like you said, we had Queen City Conquest that came up at the beginning of September, and it always winds up being a lot of work. Our friends at Queen City Conquest always roll out the red carpet for us. They give us our own space to work in. We had a bunch of games running. I'll come at you along. I know you ran along what they call a convention campaign of Rivers. We also had one from our friends Vicky Beaver over at Obertron Productions. One of their new settings, they did the long con for that one. And so it was a lot of really good stuff that happened at that convention. We had a really good turnout. We had a lot of people. As usual, we had to wind up roping in extra GMs because we ran out of places to put people or ran out of tables to put them at. So it wound up working really, really well. As far as other convention news is going on, as far as like Pinnacle stuff is happening, we're starting to see more stuff come out for Fear Agent and the Goon. If you are a backer of that Kickstarter, you should start. You should already have all your PDF stuff in hand. I did get to run the Goon in Queen City. It went fantastic. It was a great Friday night game. We had a full table of 6 players, including my lovely wife, which we used that to celebrate our anniversary. Yay! She came and played the game with me. It was great. But we had a really great group of people, even though they weren't overly familiar with the Goon. The world of the comics, they picked up the characters really quickly and did a lot of really cool stuff. They had a lot of really cool ideas from, the weird scientist making knockout lipstick that they then gave the femme fatale, who she then use on the guy they were trying to question. And then it didn't work because he blew the roll. And that meant that he wasn't really knocked unconscious, but he was knocked for a loop. And then a gorilla showed up and tried breaking into the place, and it was, all chaos. So it's a very silly scenario. I actually built it based on on some of the stuff from the adventure generator presented in the Goon book. I kind of rolled up a couple of quick characters and some ideas, and then swapped some of the bits out to kind of make it my own a little bit. And it wound up being a lot of fun. It was a really, really great time. So I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward to running more Goon in the future. Definitely hits my sweet spot of that being both a very silly game and also being that 1930s, 1940s post-oppression era kind of area. It really spoke to me a lot. So I had a great time with it. I got to run it then. I ran it again at one of our Savage Sundays last month for another group of people that came out. So, and each time they ran it very differently, but everybody had a great time with it. Everybody played the characters really well. So. I think in a way the pre-gens themselves are very good. I mean, the artwork is so well done and so well drawn out that when you look at these characters, it's kind of easy to tell what you're going to be seeing from this person, what this character is going to be like. The Goon's a big, huge, strapping, mook-looking guy. He's going to be a big, tough dude. Frank is like this little, short, kind of weasel-looking guy, and he's going to be bigger than his britches. And so it was pretty easy for them to pick up those characters. I was using the pre-gen characters that they put out the archetype set, and just printed those out. And they're very powerful. Some of them are the Goon and Frankie are legendary level characters. The other ones are a smattering of heroic to veteran. So they had lots of abilities that they could pull from. They had lots of things they could do. They weren't very breaky. So they were really easy to kind of pick up and run things with. I think it threw a couple people for a loop, just because there were so many things for them to keep track of. And some of them were having trouble just kind of understanding what their characters could do. And I wish I'd had more time to redo the character sheets and explain better what each of the powers were and how they work together. That's the one thing that was one thing sort of a downside about the archetypes, is that it sort of assumes what all these edges mean and what they're going to do for you. And there's no like real quick one-liner saying, hey, this gives you +1 to toughness, or so forth. So that's one thing I would like to see a little bit different. Yeah, but I've run into a lot of problems with Hero Lab lately. Funny enough, as you're bringing up, at QCC, I also ran another session using the Savage World Superpowers Companion, and it was an Amazon game. So it was based back before it's based in the world of the Wonder Woman movie, back before they had found Themyscira, and they play a group of Amazons who are assigned to go out and find a safe passage to this place. And I built the characters using superpowers rules, and I gave them a very low level. I was actually using stuff from a small setting called Olympian Breed. That's a Savage Worlds license available on Drive-Thru RPG. It's just really a primer at this point. There's not a whole lot of detail, but I kind of like the concept. The basic idea is that every player character is touched by the gods in some way. And because they're touched by the gods, each one has a superpower that they can use. And it's effectively a 10-point character, a 10-point superpower character. Or I'm sorry, a 5-point superpower character. So they just have one little kind of trick that they can do. And it worked okay, but when I put the stuff into Hero Lab, it balances everything all right. But the output wasn't clear. There was a lot of stuff that got cut off of the print that didn't show enough detail for the users to see, for the players to read. Some places, if I didn't specifically set an option, it would output a default value, which is not great design, especially if you're running a game where all the characters are supposed to be women and half of them say male because I forgot to check it. So it's a bit of an annoyance. I like the fact that there's a lot of that there seems to be a lot of support for it, and they're very open to people building their own data sheets that'll work with it. But the output is just not there. It doesn't work well as far as output is concerned. I had the same issue with some of the stuff in both Metacreator and Wildcard Creator too. Is that the output's not great? You know, I have a very clear picture in my mind of what I want the output to look like, and I haven't found an application that does it for me. Yeah, sure, my copious free time. Nice segue. Yeah, we did. That's also a nice thing is that this past month at Savage Sunday, we finished up our long-running Stoner Hard Place campaign, which ran for just about 2 years. A little bit under 2 years it wound up being. I think we wound up with, I think it was 15 sessions, was it? 15, 16 sessions? Yeah, we wound up with all that. So, and what I was doing was I'd given everybody 10 experience points per session, so it was easy for us to kind of figure out how long it was. We were only playing once a month. I figured that would get you powerful enough to get to the end quicker. I really didn't anticipate it taking as long as it did. No, yeah, there were a couple of things that I inserted just because I needed like filler for 1 or 2 nights because I knew some people weren't going to be around or what have you, or I wanted to introduce a couple of ideas I thought were neat, like the Lady Luck Society I thought were really cool, and because we had one of the main characters in our one of the main player characters in our group was a harrowed huckster who was very big into knowing about the background of hucksters, then I thought it made a lot of sense to do that. But I still missed on a lot of stuff too. Like your character, you had your Indian character who was looking for a murderer, and whose only identifying characteristic was this cackling laugh. I'm like, I tried really hard to get around to getting that in, but it just didn't quite materialize. So I was bummed about that. I wish I had done a better job with it. Yeah, I thought that worked really well. It was a bit of a departure from the from how they had it written in the book. I think that was kind of important. No spoilers, but the way they had it written, the book effectively revolved around the characters caring about an NPC that didn't appear anywhere else in the book. And if you're a longtime Deadlands player, you know who it is, you know who it's talking about, and you might be willing to go and help them out. But I was kind of looking at going, the player characters have no idea. The players themselves have no idea who this person is. They're not going to have any interest in going and helping this guy. So you got to make it somebody that the characters care about. The players are going to be invested with. So retcon, change. Worked good. I'm keeping an eye on a lot of different stuff. It's we're a little early in the year. We're seeing a lot of Kickstarters that are getting ramped up and are running right now. A couple that I'm out keeping an eye on is that Frank Menser, who is a long time Dungeons and Dragons designer, is doing a new classic fantasy role playing game called Imperia, and there is going to be a Savage Worlds conversion for it. That's going to be coming out very soon. It's currently in process right now. I think they're fairly far along with their item. I think they got about 30 days to go, but it is already. It's on its way to being funded. I think it's in the time it's got. It's going to have a lot of ways to go. So definitely worth checking out if you like fantasy. If you want to see more fantasy in Savage Worlds, that's something I would definitely take a look at. Our buddies over at Otherworld Press, who've done a bunch of really cool stuff. They're working on their next book called Frozen Skies, which is a diesel punk game set in a post-apocalyptic world where basically nuclear winter has happened. And they have to get their planes up and running to fight against the frozen tundra. So I'm like, that's a cool idea. I've not seen something like that before. I've never really seen much of a diesel punk style game in any setting, really. So I think that's going to be something kind of cool to check it out. I definitely think that's something that's going to be worth seeing. And then lastly, one that just opened up this week was the one from the guys at Knight Errant Media, who are a new company based out of Quebec, I believe, if I remember right, called Titan Effect. This one I'm actually really excited about. It's a modern day espionage game where you are basically superpowered super soldiers. It also uses the superpowers rules so that you can build psychic characters. So some characters have enhanced abilities, or they have bionics, or some of them might actually be lycanthropes. And so, yeah, it's sort of themed around X-Files meets Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. meets Metal Gear Solid. So it's got all those kind of factors into it. And they actually have a really nice preview book out that you can get for a free download from DriveThru that includes a little primer on the world, some starter characters, a beginning setting, beginning scenario. Really well done stuff. The characters are really well done. The artwork looks fantastic. They're going to be putting out a soundtrack. They're going to be putting out all sorts of books for it. They've got videos online. They have a themed Twitter feed that they're going to be using to put out plot hooks with. I'm like, these guys are going all out. The cookie crackle again? Okay. How's that? Is that okay? Better, worse, better, worse? Okay, good deal. So, yeah, so, like I said, the whole big multimedia thing they're doing, I'm looking forward to that one. Yep, that's it launched, I believe, on Monday, if I remember right, earlier this week. They're about 50% of their goal with 26 days to go. So that's a good sign. That's a good chance they'll probably hit that pretty easily. So I'm definitely in for that one. Okay. Testing one, two, testing, testing. Okay. Okay. Oh, well, look, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll be getting back to ETU this week. We had a long hiatus. We had a lot of personnel changes. We had some stuff happen. Our buddy Brandon had a baby. Congratulations to Brandon and his wife Lindsay, who had a beautiful baby girl. But they're still kind of getting their feet wet and getting things underway. A couple of the folks had stuff they were working on for in the local area, work concerns and illnesses and this, that, the other thing. It's been a bad year for my home game. It's been really, really rough. So I'm looking forward to hoping picking up with ETO again this week. But barring that, we still have Savage Sundays coming up again at the end of the month. So hopefully we'll be able to get some action for that going on. Are you going to do rippers? Oh, fantastic. I want to run something, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. We'll see who puts in stuff, and we'll see what's available. But yeah, that's on the 29th this month. And actually, the beginning of next month is going to be kind of busy because we've got Savage Sunday on the 29th. The following week is our Extra Life run. For those of you who are familiar with been around a while, you know that every year the Buffalo Gamer Society does an Extra Life marathon at Collector's Inn. We start on noon on Saturday and play through until the next morning. This year it's going to be on the 4th of September. I'm sorry, the 4th of November, and run through the 5th. So I have no doubt there'll be lots of gaming going on. I know people are already making plans for what kind of things they're going to be running, what kind of games they're going to play. We're probably going to see some Savage Worlds. We're probably going to see some D&D. We're probably going to see lots of board games, all sorts of other stuff. And then, oh, fantastic. And then the week after that is Con on the Cob in Ohio. So the week afterwards, I'm going to be going down to Ohio, just outside of Akron, to meet with our buddies Andy Hop and all the little Hoplings and all the other folks who are down there. And Sean Patrick Fannon's going to be there, and Corinne's going to be there, and Corey and Andrea and April and tons of people that are going to be there. It's a great time. It's a really great convention. Lots of great Savage Worlds games happen there. Lots of other stuff happens too. Lots of other stuff that my lawyer tells me that I can't tell anybody about. But yeah, so it's like 3 weeks in a row. I've got big events. I've got Savage Sunday. I've got the Extra Life Game Day, and then I've got Con on the Cob. So then I might be able to sleep. But then we're looking at Thanksgiving, so we'll see what happens there. I'm gonna be so tired. It's gonna be awesome. I can't wait. So I'm very much looking forward to the next couple weeks. But so. Sure. Mm-hmm. Sure. Sure. Yeah, I think it's one of the things I think it's kind of overlooked a little bit is that there's really no reason to not use other skills when you're dealing with mass combat. So normally in a mass combat section, each character decides how they're going to contribute to the battle. Usually it's making a fighting roll or making a shooting roll or making a spell casting check or something similar. But not everybody is really geared for that sort of thing, and that's not really their best ability. But there's a lot of things that can happen in a battle. People get hurt. People need to get healing. People need to lead flanking maneuvers. They need to kind of act as sappers and break down walls and things, or do that combat engineer kind of role. So rather than only restricting it to the combat skills, what I like to do is I like make them choose whatever skill they think would be most interesting to use. It could be your spellcasting, it could be your stealth, it could be your knowledge of battle, it could be repair, it could be whatever. The idea would be to simply encourage the players to choose something that they think is appropriate or would be fun to use, and have them describe their actions, and then use that as the basis for their role to influence the battle. The more successful they are, maybe they will take damage, maybe they will take injuries, but the more successful they are, the more successful their side becomes as well. So I would use that as well. Well, let's say, for example, like you have a case where you have a character who wants to do the combat engineer thing, and his declaration is that he's going to go and he's going to lead a team of his engineers to go and try and lay mines in front of a group of oncoming tanks or oncoming, engines of war of some sort. He botches the roll. Well, if you watch a roll, something terrible happens. What's the terrible thing that can happen from that? Well, the mines go off too early, or you catch under fire and Something hits the saboteur that you're going to be using, or the tanks aren't where you thought they were going to be, and they're in a different area. Now you're caught in a crossfire, or at that point it becomes largely a case of being reactive to the player's declaration of what their action wants to be, and playing up the narrative aspects of it a little bit more, and sort of playing off of what's the worst thing that can happen. A lot of the people in the Power by the Apocalypse will say, let's play to find out what happens. And this is kind of part of it, is what do you want to improvise and what do you want to bring to this scene? And then let's see how well it works. I think the important part I think a lot of that has to do with, again, just narrating out is there's always these little great slices of scenes in a war movie that show how the effect of individuals affect the larger picture. Black Hawk Down is a great example of this. Where every single character, there's, half dozen to almost a dozen characters that have stories in this movie. And each one, though, feels important. And why they feel important? Because you narrow the focus down to just that person and what they're doing right now. And what does it look like and how does it act? Because you have so many people to deal with, you can't really dwell on it too much. But you can get them a little short bit of spotlight and describe a really fantastic role or a really terrible role and give them that scene of either great success or great tragedy. Make it personal, make it something that they can focus on in a very narrow range. And then when everybody's turn is done, then you expand it up to the wider view of, okay, well, you were doing this is what was happening in the larger battlefield. Now the next turn comes, we focus it down again to that individual person. Well, if I figure it out one of these days, I'll tell you. It's strange because it can be very hard to do. In this case, there was a lot of great build-up, and it was a lot of build-up for the characters, and I really had a clear feeling or vision of how important some places and characters had become to the players. That they really had fallen. They kind of had a strong relationship with characters like Doc Holliday and the Earps and Tombstone itself, and they really understood what these people were like and what they were about. And when someone showed up on the scene, they knew who they were talking to and why he was there and why he was important. And they didn't hate them. So in this case, we had to make it personal. We had to bring those characters in. We had to put those characters in danger to make the stakes feel high enough. Once they were successful in their plans, again, no spoilers, they were successful. It was a matter of you guys had dumped all of your resources into being successful. And it all came down to just a handful of couple of rolls. A failed stealth check, a bad shooting roll, anything could have blown up in your faces. Any one of those steps would have completely screwed the pooch, and you would have had a terrible experience. But everything fell into place. Everybody's roles were spot on. Everybody put everything right where they needed it to be. Everybody did exactly what their role was, and it wound up being just a perfect synergy. It's luck. A lot of it has to do with just plain luck. But knowing when and where to use your abilities really helped out a lot. So knowing what the final scene was going to be, having an idea what it was going to look like, and I sort of knew what the denouement was going to be like after the fact of he gets defeated, the other guy disappears in the night, maybe he comes back later, more chaste or more mellow person because of his experiences. The players ride off into the sunset because hey, it's a western at the end of the day, so riding off the sunset's the thing that has to happen. And I also liked what we did afterwards too. Is that what we did was There were a couple of hanging plot threads that we didn't quite get a chance to address during the campaign. So I asked everybody in the group, I said, well, what happens to your character next? What would you do? How do you retire this character? What is this character? Where does this character wind up? And everybody gave me like really good ones. Like, you partnered up with one of the other characters to hunt down the guy who had killed your family and to get revenge. And then another person was like, I'm just going to retire back to a life of leisure. I'm going to take my money and sit back and chill. Like, and just gave them that chance to say, here's where I want to be when this is all said and done. So at the end of the day, you guys have all the resources you need to build any life you want. What's the life you want? I give you guys a chance to just make that decision for your own story. Not a problem. I really enjoyed it. Thank you guys for playing. It was a really fantastic time. It was definitely an experience. Probably one of the top 5 campaigns I've ever run. Definitely up there. It was a really great time. And now next month we get to play Rippers. Which I'm looking forward to. I gotta do mine actually still. That's actually something I might do this weekend. I gotta get mine primed and set up and ready to go. So then I do my project this weekend too. Get those taken care of. Take care.